People often believe that the greatest threats in life come from strangers, rivals, or enemies, but human nature tells a different story. The people who have the easiest access to your emotions are often the people closest to you, and among them, there is one type of family member you must learn to recognize before they quietly shape the direction of your life. This is the relative who secretly competes with you. The most dangerous competition is never announced. It doesn't begin with an argument or an open challenge. It begins with comparison. The moment your success reminds someone of what they failed to achieve, a silent contest is created inside their mind. They may never admit it. In fact, they may continue smiling, congratulating you, and calling themselves your biggest supporter. But beneath those words, another emotion slowly grows: envy. Envy is one of the quietest emotions in human nature because it rarely introduces itself honestly. People don't say, "I'm jealous of you." Instead, they disguise it as concern, criticism, or unsolicited advice. They question your decisions, they predict your failure, they point out every possible risk. They tell you to be realistic while secretly hoping you never discover how powerful you can become. This becomes even more complicated inside a family because society teaches us that blood automatically equals loyalty. We assume that relatives naturally want the best for one another. Sometimes they do, but human psychology does not disappear simply because people share the same last name. Family members have dreams, insecurities, disappointments, and regrets just like everyone else. If your progress forces them to confront the life they never built, your success becomes an uncomfortable mirror. Notice what happens when you achieve something meaningful. You receive a promotion, you start a successful business, you begin transforming your life. The supportive relative celebrates your growth without hesitation. The competitive relative reacts differently. They immediately compare. They remind everyone of their own accomplishments. They minimize your achievement by saying it was luck, timing, or good connections. Instead of asking how you succeeded, they search for reasons why your success doesn't really count. These reactions are rarely dramatic. They happen in subtle moments. During family dinners, someone makes a joke about your ambitions. During conversations, they change the subject whenever your achievements are mentioned. They compliment you, but somehow the compliment feels incomplete. You're doing well, but don't get too confident. That's impressive. Let's see if it lasts. These statements sound harmless, yet they slowly attack your confidence while allowing the speaker to appear reasonable. This is the brilliance of hidden competition. It never looks like an attack. It looks like honesty. Robert Greene often emphasizes that power operates beneath the surface. People reveal themselves through patterns, not isolated actions. One sarcastic comment means little, one disagreement is normal, but repeated attempts to reduce your confidence reveal something much deeper. When every victory you experience is followed by someone's effort to shrink it, you are no longer dealing with guidance. You are witnessing insecurity, searching for balance. The greatest mistake you can make is reacting emotionally. If you accuse them of jealousy, they will deny everything. They may even convince others that you have become arrogant. Hidden competitors thrive when you become emotional because your reaction shifts attention away from their behavior and toward yours. Instead, become an observer. Observe who genuinely celebrates your progress. Observe who becomes unusually quiet when good things happen to you. Observe who constantly reminds you of your past mistakes whenever you begin moving forward. Human beings reveal their true feelings not through words, but through consistency. Another sign of hidden competition is the constant desire to keep you within the version of yourself they understand. The moment you begin changing, they become uncomfortable. They encourage you to stay where you are because your growth forces them to question why they remain the same. Your transformation becomes evidence that change was always possible, and not everyone wants to face that truth. Understand that this competition is often unconscious. Many people don't wake up intending to sabotage their relatives. Their own unresolved frustrations guide their behavior without them realizing it. They project their fears onto you because accepting your potential would require confronting their own limitations. That is why wisdom requires emotional distance, not emotional revenge. You don't need to argue. You don't need to prove them wrong. Success speaks louder than explanation ever will. Protect your goals by sharing them selectively. Not every dream needs an audience before it becomes reality. Sometimes silence is your greatest advantage because it prevents unnecessary opinions from weakening your determination. Choose carefully whose advice you accept. Respect does not require blind trust. Love does not require unlimited access to your inner world. The people who deserve to know your deepest ambitions are those who consistently encourage your growth, not those who secretly compete with it. As your life improves, your circle of trust should become smaller and wiser. Celebrate with those who clap because they are happy for you, not because they are waiting for your next mistake. Learn to distinguish genuine support from disguised rivalry, and you will protect not only your success, but also your peace of mind. Because the moment you stop seeking approval from those who secretly compete with you is the moment you begin living life on your own terms. Once you begin to recognize hidden competition, another pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Not every person who tries to control you does it through anger or force. Some choose a much more effective weapon, guilt, and this weapon becomes especially powerful when it comes from family because it is wrapped in love, sacrifice, and obligation. The manipulator who uses guilt as a weapon rarely raises their voice. They simply make you feel that every decision you make for yourself is somehow a betrayal of them. This is one of the oldest psychological strategies in human relationships. Instead of telling you what to do directly, they make you believe that choosing your own path makes you selfish. They remind you of everything they have done for you. They recount old sacrifices, repeat painful memories, and subtly suggest that you owe them your happiness, your time, or even your future. Before long, you are no longer making decisions based on wisdom. You are making decisions based on guilt. The dangerous part is that guilt feels like love. You tell yourself, they're family. Maybe I should listen. But there is a profound difference between gratitude and obligation. Gratitude inspires generosity. Obligation demands obedience. One strengthens relationships while the other quietly destroys your independence. Think about how often this happens. You decide to pursue a career that excites you, and someone says, after everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. You want to move to another city to build your future, and suddenly you're accused of abandoning the family. You start setting healthy boundaries, and people claim you've changed or become arrogant. Notice what is happening. The conversation is no longer about what is best for your life. It has been redirected toward making you feel responsible for someone else's emotions. Robert Greene often explores how people seek power in subtle ways. Direct control creates resistance, but emotional control creates compliance. If someone can make you feel guilty every time you choose yourself, they no longer need to force you. You will imprison yourself. You will abandon opportunities before they even have to ask. You will apologize for dreams that require no apology. Human beings naturally seek approval from those closest to them. That is why guilt is so effective. We fear disappointing our family more than disappointing strangers. We convince ourselves that peace is worth any sacrifice, but eventually that sacrifice becomes your identity. Years pass, and you realize you have been living someone else's expectations instead of your own purpose. Manipulators understand this instinct, even if they do not consciously realize it. Every time you try to grow beyond the role they assigned you, they remind you of the past. They speak about everything they gave you, but remain silent about everything they continue to demand from you. The debt never seems to end. No matter how much you give, there is always another reason you should give more. Healthy relationships do not operate this way. Genuine love celebrates your growth, even when it creates distance or change. It does not keep score. It does not turn kindness into a lifelong contract. Real support says, go build your future. We are proud of you. Manipulation says, if you really loved us, you would stay exactly where we need you. The problem is not that family members ask for help. Every family depends on mutual support during difficult times. The problem begins when help becomes expectation and expectation becomes control. When saying no makes you feel like a bad person, you are no longer responding from compassion. You are responding from fear. Observe how manipulators react to boundaries. Emotionally healthy people may not always agree with your decisions, but they respect them. Manipulators see boundaries as rebellion. The moment you protect your time, your energy, or your peace, they accuse you of becoming cold or ungrateful. Their strongest weapon is not logic, but emotion. If they can make you question your own character, they regain influence over your choices. This is why emotional awareness is one of the greatest forms of power. Before agreeing to any request, ask yourself a simple question. Am I doing this because I genuinely want to help, or because I am afraid of disappointing someone? That single question can reveal whether your decision comes from love or manipulation. Remember that you can appreciate someone's sacrifices without surrendering control over your future. Respecting your family does not require abandoning your identity. Kindness does not require constant self-sacrifice. You can be compassionate without becoming controllable. One of the greatest signs of maturity is learning to tolerate the discomfort of disappointing people who benefit from your lack of boundaries. They may not understand your decisions immediately. Some may criticize you, others may attempt to increase the guilt. But over time, people either learn to respect your boundaries or reveal that they only valued your obedience. The strongest individuals are not those who never help others. They are those who help from freedom rather than pressure. They choose generosity instead of submission. They give because they decide to, not because guilt leaves them no alternative. When you stop allowing guilt to dictate your choices, you reclaim something far more valuable than approval. You reclaim ownership of your own life. And that is a freedom no manipulator can ever take from you. After learning to recognize hidden competition and emotional manipulation, there is another pattern that demands your attention. Some family members do not necessarily want to hurt you, but they become uncomfortable when you become stronger than the version of you they have always known. They have built their sense of security around your dependence. As long as you need their approval, their advice, or their support, they feel important. But the moment you begin standing on your own, something changes. Instead of celebrating your independence, they begin resisting it. Human nature has an interesting tendency. People often become attached not only to who you are, but also to the role you play in their lives. If your role has always been the one who asks for help, follows instructions, or seeks permission, then your growth threatens the balance they have become comfortable with. Your independence removes the influence they once enjoyed. This resistance rarely appears in obvious ways. They don't usually tell you, "I don't want you to succeed." Instead, they begin planting seeds of doubt. Every new goal you pursue is met with another warning. Every opportunity becomes a risk. Every dream is described as unrealistic. At first, it sounds like concern. They say they are simply trying to protect you. But after enough time, you realize something important. Their advice always leads you back to the same place, staying exactly where you are. Robert Greene often reminds us that people reveal themselves through outcomes rather than intentions. Ignore what they claim to want for you. Look instead at the direction they constantly encourage. If every conversation ends with you becoming smaller, safer, and less ambitious, then their influence deserves careful examination. Imagine a bird raised inside a cage. The cage eventually feels safe because it is familiar. Now imagine someone opening the door. Freedom becomes terrifying because it demands courage. Many people live their entire lives inside psychological cages created by fear, routine, and self-doubt. When they see you preparing to fly, they do not always become inspired. Sometimes they become uncomfortable because your courage reminds them of their own hesitation. That discomfort often turns into discouragement. They ask questions that sound reasonable, but are designed to weaken your confidence. What if you fail? What if things don't work out? Why can't you just be satisfied with what you already have? Notice how these questions never invite possibility. They only magnify fear. Over time, if you continue listening, their fear slowly becomes your own. The tragedy is that many dreams die before they are ever tested, not because they were impossible, but because someone else's limitations became the voice inside your own mind. You begin rejecting opportunities you once wanted simply because they no longer feel safe. This is how dependence survives. It does not survive through chains. It survives through doubt. Sometimes the person discouraging you genuinely believes they are helping. Their own experiences taught them that failure is dangerous, so they assume protecting you means limiting you. But wisdom requires understanding that another person's fear is not automatically your reality. Their past does not have to become your future. Consider how many successful people were told their goals were impossible. Entrepreneurs were told to keep stable jobs. Artists were told to find practical careers. Leaders were told they were too inexperienced. Innovators were laughed at before they were admired. History repeatedly shows that extraordinary achievements often begin as unreasonable ideas in the minds of ordinary people. The question then is not whether people doubt you. The question is whether you will allow those doubts to become your own. Pay attention to how certain family members react when you become more confident. Confidence often exposes hidden insecurity. Some people feel secure only when they are the strongest, the wisest, or the most successful person in the room. Your growth quietly threatens that identity. Rather than improving themselves, they attempt to slow your progress. This is why emotional independence is just as important as financial independence. If your confidence depends entirely on external approval, then anyone who controls that approval controls your future. True strength begins when your belief in yourself no longer rises and falls according to someone else's opinion. This does not mean becoming arrogant. It means learning the difference between constructive advice and limiting beliefs. Constructive advice helps you prepare for challenges while still encouraging growth. Limiting beliefs convince you that growth itself is dangerous. There is also another subtle sign to watch for. Some people become surprisingly supportive only after you fail. They comfort you, reassure you, and suddenly become warm again. But when you succeed, they become distant or critical. This pattern reveals that they are more comfortable with your dependence than your progress. Your struggle confirms the version of you they understand. Your success forces them to adjust their perception, and not everyone is willing to do that. The solution is neither anger nor resentment. It is awareness. Listen respectfully, but think independently. Appreciate concern without surrendering your judgment. Build your future based on careful decisions rather than inherited fears. As you grow, remember that not everyone can accompany you to the next stage of your life. Some relationships evolve, while others remain attached to the person you used to be. You cannot sacrifice your potential simply to preserve someone else's comfort. The people who truly love you may worry, but they will never ask you to abandon your purpose just to make them feel secure. They understand that genuine love supports growth. Even when growth creates distance, change, and uncertainty, the moment you stop allowing someone else's fear to define your limits is the moment your own potential finally has room to grow. As you become more aware of competition, manipulation, and the people who prefer your dependence over your growth, another lesson begins to emerge. It is not only your time and energy that require protection, your words require protection as well. In every family, there is often one person who seems to know everything about everyone. They always have the latest story, the newest secret, or the hidden details behind someone else's life. At first, this can appear harmless, even entertaining. But if someone constantly shares the private lives of others with you, there is one uncomfortable truth you must accept. They are likely sharing your private life with others as well. Information has always been a form of power. Throughout history, those who controlled information often controlled people. Robert Greene frequently explores the importance of understanding how knowledge influences relationships. The more someone knows about your fears, ambitions, weaknesses, and future plans, the more influence they potentially have over your decisions. This is why wise people are careful not only about what they do, but also about what they reveal. Many people make the mistake of believing that trust should be automatic within a family. They assume that because everyone shares the same bloodline, every conversation remains protected. But human nature does not change simply because people are related. Curiosity, jealousy, insecurity, and the desire for attention exist inside families just as they exist everywhere else. Consider the family member who always begins conversations with the same phrase, "Don't tell anyone I told you this." Think carefully about those words. If they are willing to break someone else's confidence while speaking to you, what makes you believe they will protect yours when you are absent? Trust is not measured by what people promise, it is measured by what they consistently practice. Gossip is rarely about information alone, it is often about influence. The person who always carries news from one relative to another becomes the center of attention. They feel important because everyone depends on them for updates. But maintaining that position requires a constant supply of new stories. Eventually, if there's nothing interesting to share, even ordinary conversations become exaggerated. Personal details become public discussions. Private struggles become entertainment. This is where many people unknowingly place themselves in danger. They become excited about a new business idea, a career opportunity, a relationship, or a personal goal. Before taking the first real step, they announce everything to the entire family. They seek encouragement, validation, or excitement. Instead, they often receive opinions, criticism, comparisons, and unnecessary attention. Not every dream becomes stronger when it is spoken aloud. Some dreams become weaker because they are exposed before they have developed the strength to survive criticism. Observe how successful individuals often move quietly. They do not announce every plan. They do not seek approval from every relative. They allow results to speak before explanations become necessary. This is not secrecy born from fear. It is discipline born from wisdom. Human beings naturally influence one another. Every opinion you hear shapes your thinking, even if only slightly. Imagine sharing a new ambition with 10 different people. One tells you it is impossible. Another says the timing is wrong. Someone else reminds you of past failures. Another compares you to someone who tried and failed years ago. None of these opinions determine your future, yet together they begin to create hesitation. Before long, you are questioning a dream that once felt clear. The greatest opportunities often require confidence during uncertain moments. Excessive opinions weaken that confidence. This does not mean becoming isolated or suspicious of everyone. It means learning discernment. There are people who genuinely protect your confidence. They celebrate your progress without exposing your private conversations. They understand that trust is a responsibility, not an opportunity for attention. These are the people worthy of your honesty, but there are also those who cannot resist repeating what they hear. Sometimes they justify it by saying they are only concerned. Sometimes they disguise gossip as seeking advice. Other times they simply enjoy the attention that comes from possessing exclusive information. Regardless of the excuse, the outcome remains the same. Your private life gradually becomes public property. Another danger lies in revealing your emotional weaknesses too quickly. During moments of frustration, loneliness, or disappointment, it is natural to seek comfort. But not everyone who listens intends to protect you. Some remember your moments of weakness and later use them to influence your decisions. An insecurity shared in confidence today may become a subtle weapon during a disagreement tomorrow. This is why emotional intelligence includes knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness. In reality, silence can be one of the strongest forms of self-control. It prevents unnecessary conflict. It protects unfinished goals. It allows you to observe others before revealing yourself. Notice something else about trustworthy people. They do not pressure you to reveal more than you are comfortable sharing. They respect your privacy. Manipulative or gossip-driven individuals often do the opposite. They ask endless questions, insist on knowing every detail, and make you feel guilty for keeping anything to yourself. Curiosity is normal. Entitlement to your private life is not. As your life becomes more meaningful, your words become more valuable. Not every thought deserves an audience. Not every plan requires applause. Not every victory needs immediate announcement. Sometimes the strongest strategy is to work quietly until your results become impossible to ignore. Remember, once words leave your mouth, you no longer control where they travel. But while they remain unspoken, they remain completely under your control. Protect your peace by protecting your privacy, because a guarded mind often reaches destinations that an overexposed one never will. By now, you have seen how hidden competition can weaken your confidence, how guilt can become a tool of control, how some people resist your independence, and why your private life deserves protection. But there is one final type of relationship that quietly drains more lives than most people realize. It is the family member who constantly takes from you without ever truly giving back. They do not always ask for money. Sometimes they ask for your time, your emotional strength, your attention, your patience, and your peace. Over time, they become emotional parasites, feeding on your energy while leaving you exhausted. At first, these relationships can feel noble. You convince yourself that helping family is simply the right thing to do, and to a certain extent, that is true. Strong families support one another during difficult times. Compassion is a strength, not a weakness. But compassion without boundaries eventually becomes self-destruction. The problem begins when helping someone is no longer an occasional act of kindness, but becomes a permanent expectation. Notice the pattern. They rarely call just to ask how you are doing. They contact you when they need advice, money, emotional support, or someone to solve another crisis. Every conversation revolves around their problems. Every meeting leaves you carrying emotional weight that was never yours to begin with. They expect you to listen endlessly, comfort them repeatedly, and sacrifice your own priorities whenever they ask. Human nature teaches us that people often repeat behaviors that are rewarded. If someone learns that you will always rescue them, they have little incentive to develop their own strength. Without realizing it, your constant availability may actually encourage their dependence. What begins as kindness slowly becomes a cycle where one person grows stronger while the other becomes increasingly drained. Robert Greene often points out that power exists wherever dependence exists. The more someone depends on your emotional resources while refusing to develop their own, the more your life begins revolving around their needs instead of your own purpose. You become so busy solving their problems that you neglect your own growth. This is especially dangerous because emotional exhaustion is invisible. Unlike physical injuries, no one sees the weight you carry. People notice your smile, but not the sleepless nights spent worrying about someone else's decisions. They see your generosity, but not the stress it creates. Eventually, you wake up feeling constantly tired without understanding why. The answer is often simple. Your energy has been invested everywhere except in yourself. There is another sign to recognize. Emotional parasites often avoid responsibility. Every setback is someone else's fault. Every disappointment has an external cause. They repeatedly seek sympathy but resist meaningful change. You may offer advice today only to hear the exact same problem months later because nothing was ever done to solve it. This creates a dangerous illusion. You feel needed, so you continue helping. They feel supported, so they continue depending. But no real progress occurs. The relationship becomes based on repeated rescue rather than genuine growth. Wise people understand that there is an important difference between support and rescue. Support empowers others to stand on their own. Rescue teaches them that someone else will always carry the burden. One creates strength, The other creates dependence. Think about how airlines instruct passengers during emergencies. They tell you to secure your own oxygen mask before helping anyone else. This is not selfishness, it is practical wisdom. If you lose consciousness trying to save everyone else, you become unable to help anyone at all. The same principle applies emotionally. If your own peace disappears, your ability to love, encourage, and support others begins disappearing with it. Protecting your energy is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of responsibility. Pay close attention to how people react when you begin setting limits. Healthy family members understand that you also have responsibilities, dreams, and challenges. They appreciate your help even when you cannot always provide it. Emotional parasites respond differently. They become offended by your boundaries. They accuse you of changing. They imply that you no longer care. Their disappointment is not always proof that you have done something wrong. Sometimes it is simply proof that they have become accustomed to unlimited access to your time and energy. Another important lesson is recognizing that not every problem belongs to you. Many people confuse empathy with ownership. You can care deeply about someone's struggles without making those struggles your identity. You can listen without carrying their pain for weeks. You can offer advice without feeling responsible for every outcome. Your purpose in life is not to become the emotional storage room for everyone else's unresolved issues. Strong people are not those who endlessly sacrifice themselves. Strong people know when to give, when to step back, and when to allow others to learn through their own experiences. Growth often requires responsibility, and responsibility cannot develop if someone else constantly removes every consequence. This does not mean becoming cold or uncaring. It means helping in ways that build strength instead of dependence. Encourage people to solve problems, not simply escape them. Offer guidance, but do not surrender your entire life to someone else's repeated patterns. Remember, every hour you invest in endless emotional drama is an hour taken away from your own dreams, your own family, your own health, and your own peace. Time and energy are your most valuable resource because once they are gone, they cannot be recovered. Choose relationships where support flows in both directions, where respect accompanies love, and where kindness is appreciated rather than expected. The healthiest families are not built on endless sacrifice from one person, but on mutual responsibility, mutual respect, and mutual growth. Protect your energy wisely, because the life you are trying to build deserves your strength just as much as the people you care about do. After recognizing the relative who secretly competes with you, the one who manipulates you through guilt, the person who keeps you dependent, the one who cannot protect your privacy, and the individual who constantly drains your energy, there is one final lesson that brings all the others together. It is perhaps the most difficult lesson of all, not because it requires strength against others, but because it requires mastery over yourself. The greatest form of power is not cutting people out of your life in anger. It is learning the art of emotional distance. Many people misunderstand emotional distance. They imagine it means becoming cold, bitter, or heartless, but that is not wisdom. Bitterness is simply another form of attachment. When someone controls your emotions through anger, they still control you. Emotional distance is something entirely different. It is the ability to remain calm while others become emotional. It is the discipline to protect your peace without needing to win every argument or prove every point. Robert Greene often emphasizes that the strongest people are those who refuse to let emotions dictate their decisions. Human nature is impulsive. We want immediate reactions. When someone insults us, we want to respond. When someone misunderstands us, we want to explain. When someone attacks our character, we feel the need to defend ourselves. But every emotional reaction gives away a piece of your control. Think about how much energy people waste trying to convince those who have already decided not to understand them. Hours become days. Days become years. Entire lives are consumed by the desperate need for approval from people who were never willing to give it. The tragedy is not that others refuse to understand you. The tragedy is allowing their opinions to determine your peace of mind. There comes a moment in every person's life when they must accept a difficult truth. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to your thoughts, your emotions, or your time. Some relationships improve with closeness, others improve with healthy distance. Wisdom lies in knowing the difference. This does not require dramatic confrontations. Many people believe every problem demands a final argument, a powerful speech, or a complete separation. But life is rarely that simple. Often the strongest move is the quietest one. You answer less frequently. You stop sharing every detail of your life. You no longer seek validation from those who repeatedly misunderstand you. Without announcing anything, you begin protecting your inner world. This quiet change often surprises people. Those who benefited from your emotional reactions suddenly notice that you are no longer available for unnecessary conflict. They provoke you, but you remain composed. They criticize you, but you refuse to argue. They attempt to pull you into old patterns, yet you respond with calm instead of emotion. That calm becomes your greatest strength. Human beings often lose influence over those they cannot emotionally control. If someone expects you to become defensive every time they criticize you, your silence unsettles them. If they expect guilt to change your decisions, your confidence removes their power. If they expect drama but receive peace instead, they begin realizing that the relationship has changed. Emotional distance also requires accepting that you cannot change everyone. One of the greatest illusions in life is believing that enough patience, enough explanation, or enough sacrifice will eventually transform another person's character. Sometimes it happens. Often it does not. You cannot force someone to celebrate your success if they secretly resent it. You cannot convince a manipulator to stop manipulating if they benefit from control. You cannot teach loyalty to someone who enjoys betrayal. You cannot create maturity in someone who refuses responsibility. The sooner you accept these realities, the sooner you stop exhausting yourself trying to change people who have no desire to change. Instead, redirect that energy toward your own development. Improve your discipline, strengthen your character, expand your knowledge, protect your health, build meaningful relationships with people who value honesty and mutual respect. Every minute invested in becoming stronger is more valuable than an hour spent arguing with someone determined to misunderstand you. There is another powerful truth that many people overlook. Forgiveness and distance can exist together. You do not need to hate someone in order to protect yourself from them. You can wish them well while refusing to participate in unhealthy patterns. You can release resentment without reopening the door to repeated disappointment. This is not revenge, it is wisdom. As your emotional maturity grows, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop reacting to every opinion. You stop feeling responsible for everyone's happiness. You stop explaining your decisions to people committed to judging them anyway. Your confidence no longer depends on applause, and your peace no longer disappears because someone disapproves of your choices. You begin living according to principles instead of pressure. You also discover that boundaries reveal the true nature of relationships. The people who genuinely care about you may need time to adjust, but they eventually respect your limits. Those who become angry often reveal that they never valued the relationship itself. They valued the access they had to your time, your emotions, and your obedience. That realization is painful, but it is also liberating. Remember that life is too short to spend it constantly defending yourself against those who have already decided who you are. Your responsibility is not to manage every opinion. Your responsibility is to live with integrity, treat people with respect, and remain faithful to your purpose. When you master emotional distance, you stop carrying burdens that were never yours. You stop chasing approval that was never guaranteed. You stop fighting battles that never deserved your attention. Instead, your energy flows toward building the life you truly want. And that is the highest form of power, not controlling other people, but becoming so grounded within yourself that no one else can control you.